And come on down to your mats. We'll just, we're gonna start and end in a seated position tonight. So as always, you have options. For some of you, if you don't like sitting cross-legged, sitting on a block sometimes can be nice. I mean, you can do it without the block, but it's usually less comfortable. The higher up you are, the more gentle it is on your knees if you have any knee issues. If you are comfortable sitting cross-legged, you can go ahead and do that, picking any cross-legged position. Decide what works, and then like I said at the end tonight, we are going to do some relaxation breath work, and we'll do that seated, although you could do it lying down. So if you want like a cushion or something, you can go ahead and grab that now so that you're comfortable now, and then also at the end. And then once you have gotten yourself settled, go ahead and just relax. Release your arms down into your lap. Always the option to close your eyes. And bring your attention to your breath and see if you can just for a moment, just watch your breath. Just notice what it's doing without changing anything. You may be breathing sort of shallowly. Most of us tend to do that when we're not paying attention. Are you breathing through your nose or through your mouth? Can you notice which nostril is more active? We tend to switch throughout the day. And notice how you're feeling in your body right now. Notice any areas of tension where you're holding either physical and or emotional stress. And just notice them, be aware of them, and as you work through your practice, you can pay attention to those areas. Give them a little extra love, hold things a little bit longer to release those areas. And if you haven't already, begin inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your nose. Just a nice steady breath. Drawing in energy, releasing tension. You want to be sitting tall so your spine is erect, so you're not compressed on your lungs, but without any tension. So make sure the shoulders are relaxed. Notice your jaw, if you're holding that, release it. Maybe your lips part a little bit, softening your cheeks, your eyes, your forehead. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose. And if you'd like to set an intention for tonight's practice, or if you want to dedicate your practice tonight, you can think about what that is. Staying present, remembering to breathe, not judging yourself, whatever you want out of your practice tonight. And begin to gently warm up. You can keep your eyes closed, or at any point you can open them if you want. Releasing your head forward, dropping chin towards chest. Staying tall through the rest of your spine. You're just feeling a stretch there in the back of your neck. And begin to roll your head really gently to one side and pause. Roll it to the other side and pause. Just going ear to shoulder without going back. And then begin making full circles, but without going really far back. You're just ever so slightly tilting your face up as you pass through center without compressing the vertebrae backwards. Nice and slowly in one direction. Just completing a couple of circles, and then when you're ready, reverse that, going the other direction. Completing a couple of circles the other way. And bringing your head eventually back to center. And turn your head over one shoulder and over the other shoulder, as if to say no in slow motion. And eventually working your way back to center. Take an inhale, extend your arms up. Tilt your face slightly up towards the ceiling and open your eyes if they're not open already, growing nice and tall, lifting through the spine. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, bring your hands down behind your back. Hi, Ashley. Both the John ladies here. Pull your shoulders gently back, opening the chest and shoulders. All of your boxes are really small and I can't really read them, but it was like there was context clues enough I could figure out who it was. Inhale again, back to center, lifting up, growing tall. And let's bend over to one side, so just let that arm go down by the side, stretching over. So try to stay rooted in your hip rather than lifting your bottom and your hip off the floor so that you have some traction. You're pressing down into the mat here and you're pulling over here. So you're curving the spine. I think of this like a sapling tree bending over to the side. And as you take deep breaths, notice that you're filling this side of the lungs that's open, expanding, stretching the ribs, stretching the muscles. It should feel really nice. Letting this arm go is just kind of soft, supporting you like a kickstand. Inhale, exhale, over to the other side. Same thing, rooting that opposite hip. This arm, if it's uncomfortable on your shoulder, you can always leave it down. If it's stretched out, really actively reach it away because you'll feel a really nice stretch here through your side body. Taking a couple of deep breaths again into the ribs there. Good, and back to center. If you would like, we're going to do a few more things here. Switch the cross of your legs. It feels super awkward for me. For everybody, that's not necessarily the same, but we do tend to cross our legs one direction, so see if you can switch it up. And then again, inhale, and now we're going to twist. So think about growing nice and tall as you lift, lift, lift like someone's drawing you up, and then twist as you exhale. Bring the back hand behind you on the mat and a hand on a thigh. If anyone's on your knees, you can still absolutely be doing this from your knees, but you might find you're too high. You might need a block behind your back. And then pull the back shoulder gently back. Try to sit up tall so you're not leaning into your back hand. The spine is absolutely vertical. It's just twisting. And if you want, you can gently look over the back shoulder, but don't overstrain your neck here. And again, take a couple of really deep breaths. Those who've been with me for a while have heard me say repeatedly, when we breathe into these twists, into these bends, when our back is, or when our lungs are compressed rather, it's really healthy for our lungs. It builds strength, it builds capacity, so it's good to take nice deep breaths. And back to center. Laura, I just realized you're not usually here on Wednesday because you go to your other class. Inhale, stretch up, we'll go to the other side, so it's good to have you. And twist to the opposite side, hand behind the back, hand on the thigh. Again, try not to grab the knee, it's better to put the hand on the thigh. Pulling the back shoulder back, still thinking about lifting through the spine, and then maybe turning and looking over the back shoulder gently. Taking some nice long deep breaths.
I'm here because I didn't have electricity at my 5 o'clock class, but I'm glad to be here because I missed it.
Awesome. Ah, yes. All of us, except probably Ashma, know the joys of not having consistent electricity. Not that you're not used to it in general, but where you live now, you don't have to deal with it. And come back to center. And sitting up nice and tall. Bring the feet together, soles of the feet together. Lifting tall through the spine, lifting, lifting, lifting. Let those hips drop open, let the knees drop open. Take a deep inhale here. So you'll notice everyone's hips are kind of different here, but you may find that you're holding kind of emotional tension in your hips. It's an area that we don't necessarily think about. If you've ever had a massage and someone kind of got into your gluteal hip area and it was painful, that's not uncommon, and we often don't feel it just like day to day, maybe because those muscles are so big. So as you're sitting here in your Baddha Konasana, as you exhale, see if you can just mentally let go of your hip joint. They're not going to flop all the way to the floor necessarily, but you might find that if you let go, if you exhale into it, that it's not just physical that's holding you there. You can actually breathe and let go and maybe find that there's some emotional lifting up and holding in. And then release this forward, letting the head drop down, rounding the spine, taking some nice deep breaths. Inhaling and exhaling. And rolling back up. Extend one leg. Bring the opposite leg up high on the inner thigh. Place that hand behind your back. So if your mirror image to me, the right leg is extended, left leg in, but it doesn't matter. And then that left hand would be behind, and we're going to press up. It's like a baby wild thing. Stretch that other hand overhead, maybe look back at it. You should be feeling a stretch through your hip flexor here, your side body. Take a couple of deep breaths. And release that down. And then open up the opposite leg. Uttanasana Konasana. Toes towards the ceiling, knees towards the ceiling. So it's really common if you're tight through the hamstrings and in the hips that you'll tend to kind of slouch back through here. No offense, but men, I see this more commonly than in women just because sometimes they tend to be less flexible, but that's okay. If you sit on something, just a little bit of a cushion even, you can find that you can tilt the hips forward and sit up tall because you want to still be able to breathe here. So nice and long, and then let's walk the hands forward. If you want, you could grab a block and rest your hands on a block. Don't go too deep here. We haven't done a lot, so don't overdo it. But just feeling some opening here in the inner thighs, in that lowest part of your back. Again, always imagining there's like a golden thread pulling you by the crown of your head. That's always going to be lengthening your spine. And so see if you can feel that gentle pull all the way down at the base of your spine. So rather than collapsing, chin towards the floor, you're lifting and extending. Notice if your feet roll in or out. If you can keep toes towards the ceiling, knees towards the ceiling, that's best. And then walk yourself up. And then bring the opposite foot in, whatever foot you didn't bring last time. Right foot perhaps. And then that hand behind you, pushing into that, lifting up, stretching over. Deep inhale and exhale. And releasing that back down. And once again, opening the legs. Bringing your arms out in front of you. So for this, you could hold something light, like a block. You could bring your hands together like Charlie's Angels. Or like, I think of this as like stirring a cauldron. We're going to do circles with our hips. So it doesn't particularly matter what you do with your hands. But the arms are going to be parallel to the floor. You're going to reach forward and then bring your hands out over one of your feet. It's a slight tilt back to circle around to the other foot. So the idea is to make basically as big a circle as you can. You're just kind of rotating in this bottom part of your spine. And again, if you don't have anything, that's fine. You're just doing like this, stirring your big pot. Continuing to take long, deep breaths. Maybe inhaling for about half the circle, exhaling for the other half. And next time you get back out in front, whenever you're there, no rush, just reverse direction. As always, remember, do everything at your pace. You don't need to catch up to me, especially in this class. I try to keep the pace slower so that if you're still finishing something, you can finish it and don't feel like you have to rush to get to the rest of us. I like this class to be very tranquilo. Tranquila. And whenever you get back to center, release the hands down and just stretch forward again. Notice if you can go a little bit further forward this time, if you've opened up at all. Good, and then walk yourself back up. Bring those legs together. Come on over onto hands and knees. Into our favorite cow cat. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. So as you inhale, remember we always start here at the bottom, the base of the spine. As you inhale, the pelvis drops down, the chest begins to lift, the shoulders pull back, and the gaze goes forward. And then as you exhale, you round from the bottom again. Pull the tailbone under, pull the belly button in, drop the head, arching up into cat. Moving at your pace. Inhaling all the way through cow, exhaling all the way through cat. More or less the same breath length. So you don't have to be counting, but just notice, see if you can breathe in and breathe out at a steady pace. So your cow and your cat are about the same length of time. And we are going to add the arms and the legs tonight. So your option will be in a moment to add the right leg on its own, and we'll do a few there. And then you can either put the leg down and just do the arm, or you can add the arm and do both, which is obviously will be more challenging. And you can always add on the exhale or the inhale. But I want you to see if you can continue the spinal movement. So whenever you're ready, on the exhale, you would draw the knee in towards you, knee towards nose. And on the inhale, you extend it back behind. But again, you don't need to start on the exhale. You can start on the inhale if you prefer. You exhale to arch up into cat. Inhale, extend, the gaze goes forward. So we're not kicking the leg up, but we are lifting it, and there is a gentle curve in the back, but we don't want to over-exaggerate that curve. So try not to lift that leg super high in the air. That wouldn't feel outstanding on the low spine. And then as I said, if you want, you can put the leg down and just do the arm, or you can add the opposite arm. So if you're doing right leg, you draw, right leg, you draw the left arm in, and then you extend it. And you're sort of following your hand with your eyes. So you drop your nose down as you follow the hand in, and then you lift up as you look at the hand out in front. Exhaling and inhaling, nice and steady. And then whenever you next inhale, extend out, and then see if you can bring your spine to a more neutral position. So the gaze is going to drop down between the thumbs. The leg is going to come just at hip height. Pull the belly button in and see if you can eliminate that curve in the bottom of your back. Holding here. At any point, you can put your arm down if it's too much to hold the arm up, or if you're too wobbly. We're going to do some leg lifts here. So dropping the toe down, lifting back up to hip height, lowering down and lift, lowering down and lift. Toe can be pointed or flexed or just in neutral so you don't cramp up. And 3, 2, last one. From here, make little circles with the leg. So the whole leg is moving, but it's not like a giant circle. It's moving from the hip joint. And reverse that. Back to center. Now if the hand is still lifted, go ahead and place it down. Bring that leg all the way forward, placing it on the mat. Come up to a runner's lunge. So if you find you need them, blocks can be super helpful here. So you can have a nice long spine, knee over ankle, back leg pushing away, so you're stretching through that back hamstring. The reason you would need blocks is if your legs tend to be closer together and then you're really bending over here, it's not such a great alignment for you. So it's better to be lifted on blocks. If you can separate your legs further and get lower down, you might find you can do without the blocks. Take a deep inhale, long exhale. Good, release that back knee onto the mat, bringing hands up behind the front knee, hinging forward, pulling the shoulders back, gently opening the gaze towards the ceiling. Really driving forward here. This is one time the knee might come over the toe, just depending on all sorts of things. It doesn't have to, but it might. Good, we're gonna rock back a few times, forwards and back into our half splits and back to here. So we're gonna hinge back into our half splits and then hinge forward into our crescent. Hinging back, toe flexes, hinging forward. Back and forward. Last time coming back to that half splits, again, you might find with less flexibility that you need the blocks here, hands on blocks. Push the hips back towards the heels and then bend forward. If you don't need blocks, we're here. Foot can be pointed or flexed. So if you're trying to really stretch the hamstring, go ahead and flex the foot. If you tend to hyperextend there, point it to protect the knee. Take a deep breath. Good, rising up. Hands square off that right foot, curl the back toe under, back up to that lunge position, step the right foot back, drop down onto the knees, and lower all the way down to the mat. Chest, then chin, then hips. Press into the palms, lift up to that baby cobra, squeezing the glutes. And press up and back, just for like one breath in child's pose. Release the head down for one round of breath, and then rise back up. Bring the right foot forward again, but this time step it out to the outside edge of the right mat. Yeah, the right mat. Same mat, just the right edge of it. You again might find you need a block here, or a book, or a pillow, or whatever you're using in lieu of a block. We're going to come to lizard lunge. So you're bringing your forearms, again, check that knee is over ankle. If your foot's way back here, just scooch it forward. Ideally, we want forearms down. So if you find that you can't reach the floor, that's why the block or a pillow is helpful. But if you don't have one, you can stay on your hands, or if you can bring forearms all the way down to the mat, you're here. And then your option is to lift up on the back foot. So it's your option if you keep that back knee down or if you keep it lifted. And then see if you can keep this right big toe in the mat. It will want to kind of roll over. See if you can plant it there and push your shoulder gently against your inner thigh. And that's going to create some opening of the hip joint. And that, again, it's like traction. You've got your foot glued to the mat. Your leg is obviously attached to your hip. And then as you gently press against it, you create that stretch. If you're on forearms, go ahead and come up onto hands. We're going to transition this directly to a pigeon. If for some reason pigeon doesn't work for you, you're going to come onto your back and do the modified figure 4. If you're on your back, you'll put right ankle across left thigh and pull that left thigh in. Pigeon from here, we're going to bring this right foot across the body, lowering back down, extend the left leg long. So if you find that you kind of roll and flop onto that right glute, wedge a block or a pillow even here under that glute. Hips are forward, chest is lifted, leg is extending behind you, and you're kind of trying to inch this foot forward as much as you can. The full expression, it's way out here at a 90-degree bend. I suppose some people in the world can do that. I cannot. And then if you want, you can take this down to the mat. Again, block is helpful, or pillow if you wanted to put a head on it. You could also make your hands into a little pillow and rest your head there. You could reach your arms out in front of you if that feels good. It doesn't matter what your arms do, so just go where it feels nice. And release. And again, notice that hip. Notice if you feel tension there. In theory, this is a relaxing pose, but if you've got tightness in your hips, it can be somewhat uncomfortable. It shouldn't be painful. If it's painful, come out of it. But if it's just uncomfortable, take some nice deep breaths. See if you can let it go. And then when your next inhale, go ahead and press yourself up. Bring that foot back, come back onto the knees and sit back in child's pose and just sort of shift your hips side to side, loosening up through there in case you need it. If you want, come up to a down dog just to stretch out for a moment. We spent a lot of time with the knees kind of bent. Totally optional. We're going to come back to all fours, but sometimes down dog feels good after pigeon, so your option if you want to do that. And then we're going to meet in all fours. So once again, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. It's always dangerous when I do a long series on one side because I have to remember what we did. So let's see how we do. All right, so beginning again with cow-cat, just the back. So you find the rhythm and you find the spinal movement. Really exaggerating as you arch up into that cat. It is one of those postures that kind of literally looks like what its name is if you think of a cat with its back up. That's what we're doing. I hope that none of us are angry. But if you were an angry kitty, that's what you would do. All right, and then when you're ready, so if you did right leg last time, we're gonna go to the left leg, but just make sure you do the opposite from what you did before. Whenever you want, beginning in or beginning out, matching breath to movement. The exhale, nose comes to knee. The inhale, the leg extends behind. Always starting with the base of the spine, working your way to the crown of the head. And then whenever you want, you can put the leg down, or you can add the arm into it. Elbow comes to knee, arm and leg extend in opposite directions. Still moving with the spine. And then the next time you extend, hold out in that bird dog position. And again, now adjust and find a neutral spine. So leg is pushing away. I like to flex my foot here. It's up to you. It's pushing away just at hip height. Arm is extended. Gaze is down in between the thumbs. Belly is in, lifting that spine so it just has your gentle natural curve, but not an exaggerated curve. And then from here, we're going to tap the toe down to the mat and lift it back up. Tap down and lift. Little squeeze here. We are doing gluteal work, so it's just a little squeeze of the glute as you lift up. And then lift up and hold. Again, you could always put the hand down if it's better for you. And make circles with the leg. Either direction. Working through the hip socket. And then reverse direction. Smallish circles, but with the whole leg. Sometimes I see people just rolling their ankles, so you can connect the whole leg. Good, and then place that hand down, place the knee down, sit back on your heels, coming to child's pose. Take a deep breath in and out, just for 1 or maybe 2 breath cycles. Good, rising up, stepping that left foot forward, bringing the hands behind the knee, and hinging forward in our crescent lunge. So with this, it's very common to kind of drop into the hips. So even though we're driving forward, it's still never a down motion. We're rarely angling down. You're still growing tall. Chest is open, gaze is forward, lifting out of that low spine, and then that starts to create a back bend. Not necessary, but as you continue to pull the shoulders back, as you continue to open the gaze towards the ceiling, as you continue to press forward, the natural extension of the spine will happen. And then we're going to hinge a couple of times into our half splits. So coming back and forward. And then the next time you come back, hold that half splits. Pause there for a moment. Foot flexed or pointed, leg extended. Push those hips back. Good, rising up. We'll actually just transition this time directly to our lizard. So just move your left foot to the edge of the mat. Again, hands or forearms ideally on a pillow, block, book, whatever you're using. Knee over ankle, and then if you want, coming up on that back foot so the leg is extended. That part's really optional. It doesn't really change the hip opening action so much. It just gives you a bit of a hamstring stretch. It works, you're using more muscles to hold yourself up. So again, keep that left toe planted, trying not to roll onto the pinky edge of the foot, and gently push against the inner thigh with your arm and your shoulder. Take some deep breaths into those hips. And then release that down. Bring the hands back. We're going to come to pigeon. So that left foot's going to come across the body, finding the mat. Right leg extends beyond. And then again, if that left hip wants to roll and sit, just stick a block or a pillow under you. Stay nice and lifted, tall, proud pigeon. Deep breath into the ribs, expanding the chest. And then option if you want to release this down on the mat. If you came on your back last time, you could do that again, coming onto the back. Left ankle comes onto the right thigh, pull the right thigh gently in. Sometimes people with knee problems don't love being down on the floor here in pigeon, so that's might be a reason to modify. Take some nice deep breaths. Picking whatever arm position works for you. Notice if this side feels different, if this hip feels different. And when you're ready, pressing yourself up. Bringing the knee back, coming to a modified plank, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. And then we're going to lower down slowly, chest, chin, and hips. Inhale up to cobra or baby cobra. So hips are on the mat, shoulders are down, elbows are back. Squeezing the glutes, holding there for a moment, not coming up any higher than you like. You can be way down here. Just depends on your back. And then coming back to child's pose, sitting back on your heels. Take a deep breath. So we're going to come to down dog. We're not going to do too many down dogs. We're not going to do too many, any vinyasas tonight. But if at any point you want to just stop doing that down dog, just come to all fours or come to child's pose. It's absolutely fine. Let's move through a couple of our modified vinyasas here. So we're going to rise up on the inhale to a modified plank. So you're like a ski slope. You're at an angle. And then as you exhale, the elbows are going to hug the ribs as you bring the chest to the floor, the chin to the floor, then the hips press into the floor as the chest lifts in your cobra, and you push up and back into child's pose. So if you can do that with some fluidity. As you inhale, you rise up to that modified plank. As you exhale, modified chaturanga. Inhale up to cobra. Exhale back. So for those of you who are used to full vinyasas and are more intermediate, this is a great way to practice just going really slowly and building that strength as you go down. You can even hover at any point along the way. And for those of you who that modified chaturanga is a challenge, those of you newer, it's a great way to build that strength. Doing it from toes is so much harder. When we practice here and knees, you can really work to bring the chest down, and you don't need to go so super slow. If you kind of flop down, that's okay. Wherever you are, go ahead and finish the cycle that you're on. I started a new one so that I can end last. And then once you get to child's pose, just hang out there. Toes together, knees together, arms stretching forward, head resting down into the mat. So now we'll come up to that down dog, or you could stay in child's pose or come to all fours so that we can do a couple of standing postures. So pressing the hands into the mat, pressing the heels into the mat. Let go of your head, give it a shake and a nod. Make sure you're not holding tension in your neck. Rolling shoulders down away from the ears. So we're going to come up up to a warrior one. So stepping your right foot forward, pivoting the back foot, finding a place on the mat, rising up, hands come to heart center. So hips are square to the short edge of your mat, gaze is forward, chin towards chest. So you'll notice I don't have a super bend in my front knee. You might go deeper, but if I go deeper, my hips start to get all crooked. So I keep a little bit less of a bend so I can pull that left hip forward. If you want, extending the arms up overhead, opening the chest and shoulders towards the sky. Good, bringing the hands behind the back, clasp them together, and then folding over into your humble warrior, releasing those arms overhead. Feeling a stretch of the rotator cuff. And then rising back up, extending those arms up, and then opening into Virabhadrasana 2. So it's a hip opener. Both hips are rotating out. Outer rotation of that left hip. Right knee over right ankle. Right arm extended, gazing out over it, and left arm shooting behind you. Staying nice and lifted. Avoid the temptation to hinge towards the right. Just stay upright. Good, and then extend that right leg. Walk the left foot in a little bit closer for our triangle, hinging forward, reaching, 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 and then that right arm comes down, ideally. It lands on a block, and the left arm extends, or that arm can just hang in the air. Other options to bring the left hand behind the head, press your head against that hand. It will tend to help open your chest and your ribs so that you are parallel to the wall behind you or in front of you. And then when you're ready, press yourself up. Again, left hand behind the back, flip the right palm over, reversing your triangle. Both legs are straight. Breathing into the right side body. Good. Release that. Pivot everything towards the top end of the mat and find your high lunge. So you might need to scooch that back foot back. Now I do tend to go deeper. It's up to you. You don't go deeper than a 90-degree bend here. Hands at heart center. Nice and lifted, chest lifted. If you want, you can extend the arms up again, opening the gaze towards the ceiling. And then bringing the hands down to the mat, stepping the right foot back, dropping down onto knees, lowering down, chest, chin, and hips, modified chaturanga, up to cobra, back to child's pose. I was about to say down dog as I did child's pose. And then if you want to come to down dog, curl the toes under, press yourself up to your down dog, heels into the mat. Make sure your head is loose, no tension in your neck. And then from wherever you are, step the left foot forward, pivoting the back right foot, rising up again, Virabhadrasana 1 on this side. So again, left knee over ankle, hips are forward. So we've been doing a lot of hip stuff, and the warriors are considered a hip opening series, because right now, the right hip is rotated forward. So if you're doing it correctly, you will feel a stretch on the outside edge of that right leg. Chest lifted, if you want, extending the arms, and then bringing them behind the back, clasping them together, folding over into our humble warrior. Don't push too hard here on your arms, just sort of reach them gently over. Don't ever want to overstretch your tendons and ligaments, which are what are holding your shoulder in place. And then rising back up, arms extend, open out, warrior 2. So your foot position, the front foot heel, if you were to draw a line, it would hit at the arch of the back foot. And that back foot can either be perpendicular, or I leave it at the same angle that it was in warrior 1. Some people like it perfectly perpendicular, that's fine. Keep opening up that right hip, keep rolling that left hip out, knee over ankle, deep bend in that left knee, gaze over the left finger. Ooh, you can see my my shirt that I'm wearing tonight. It's my scoliosis shirt. This is what my spine looks like, so that's why I have to modify certain things. And then straighten that leg. Now you probably want to bring your feet a little closer together for your Trikonasana. Hinging forward, reaching, 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 reaching. Left arm drops down, either dangles or finds a block. Try not to push on your shin. And then either extend the right arm or drop it behind the head, rolling that shoulder back. The reason also having your hand behind your head is good is you will tend not to overstretch your shoulder. What I sometimes see in triangle is instead of arms straight up, they're reaching way back behind you. It's like you're trying to roll your shoulder back by way of your hand. Whereas if you bring the hand behind the head, that just doesn't happen. It's not possible. And then press yourself up, right hand behind the back, left palm flips up, opening up, reversing that triangle. Breathing into the left side body. Releasing that, again, pivoting everything forward, maybe walking that back foot back so you can come to your high crescent lunge. Pushing through the back heel. And then bring the hands down to the mat. Step that left foot back, dropping down onto knees. Modified chaturanga. Inhale up to cobra. Exhale. Come this time, separate your knees and bring your toes together, release onto the mat. So this is more of a resting warrior. So this should feel slightly different from child's pose with knees together. Stretch those arms in front of you so you're actively stretching the spine. Good. We're just going to do one more posture on each side. So bring the knees back together. Curl the toes back under, press up. So again, option down dog. You could do this from all fours. It'll be a little easier to get into from down dog, but totally your option. If you're in down dog, extend the right leg. Let's do our hip opener here. So bend your right knee, drop your right foot towards the opposite side. So you're stacking right hip on top of left. And we're going to come to a fallen triangle. So you're going to bring that leg back to center, hinge forward, kick the right foot out to the left side. You can stay right here. This might be fine for you. If you want to take it to one step further, rotate onto the right hand and lift up the left arm. You're pushing up through this left hip. It was just one more way to get to our hips, since I wanted to have it. And then if your hand is extended, place it down. Bring the right foot back, kick back up into your three-legged down dog, and then place it down. Left leg extends up, bend the knee. Whoopsie, I'm too close to the wall. Open up, stacking left hip on top of right. Bring the leg back to center. Swing it forward, kick it out to the right side. So again, you can stay right where you are, or come onto the left hand, extend the right arm, push up through this right hip. And then bring that hand back down to the mat, kick all the way up, three-legged down dog again, and then place that foot on the mat, drop down onto knees, modified plank, lower all the way down, chest, chin, and hips. Inhale up to cobra, and exhale again into child's pose. Good. Come on up. We're going to come into a squat. So coming up onto hands and knees, I need to move further away from the wall. Coming up onto hands and knees, and then there's a few ways to get into this. Again, a block can be helpful behind you depending on where you are in your flexibility. Step one foot forward, doesn't matter which. Step the other foot forward, and then see if you can come down into that squat. Your heels might be lifted off the mat, that's fine. If you are uncomfortable or if you find that you're up here, that's when you want to bring the block under you and sit on the block. Because what you want to try to do is have your spine tall. If you can do without the block, it will look something like this. The arms are pressing against the inner thigh. You're lifting up through chest. Hands at heart center. Gazes forward. Take some nice deep breaths. So hopefully you did enough opening and stretching of that hip joint area that this feels okay. But again, rather than being bent over, stack something up so you can sit comfortably. This is really, it's very good for our digestion. It's good for your hips, it's good for your knees. And it's something that the old ladies, the real old ladies in my village when I lived in Botswana, their skirts would be over their legs and they would be like this and they would be doing their laundry, they would be chopping vegetables. This was like a resting position for them because they've been doing it their whole life. And I was just amazed by that because most Americans, who sit in chairs all day long, or anybody in the West who sits in chairs all day long, we lose this ability. And these women in their 70s, 80s, 90s, hundreds, I think some of them, could still do this. So if you can do it now, you'll be able to do it forever. And if you can't do it now, you can work on it and practice it, because none of us are even 50 in this group, I don't think. I think I might be the oldest. All right, go ahead and sit down out of it. Ooh, release the legs forward. And give your feet a kick and a shake. Get that circulation going again. Paschimottanasana, arms extend up. And hinge forward, releasing down. And relax into that. Couple of deep breaths. Good, bringing yourself up. Bending the knees. Holding one thigh, or one shin rather, into the body, and just roll yourself down to the mat and let that opposite leg press down onto the mat. Once you get down, pull that right shin in. Roll the ankle a couple of times each direction. Push the opposite leg away, so really flex. If it's your left foot that's leg extended, really flex that left foot. And then hold on to this shin. If it's your right hand, or right shin rather, hold on with your right hand, and gently open that out. So again, we're not tugging on the knee. Hold the shin. And I like to put my left hand here on my left hip to keep it rooted so you don't roll over. So gently pulling that out. Couple deep breaths. And then bring that leg across the body. So for most of you, you'll want to bend your bottom knee. If, as you come over, your right knee comes to the floor or to a block or a pillow, and you can keep your right shoulder on the mat, then that's cool, stay there. But if that right leg is like up in the air here, it's going to be much better to bring your knee under it. And then turn your head and look over the right shoulder. Arms can be extended, or I've got mine in cactus. Couple deep breaths here. And back to center. Recenter yourself on your mat. Other side, left leg comes in, whichever leg you didn't do. Push the right heel away. Rotate the left ankle a couple of times each direction. Really extend that leg, see if you can get it pressed into the mat. And then keeping right hand on your hip, grab hold of that left shin, gently pulling it out. I find it's comfortable if my left elbow can eventually find the floor. And take a couple of breaths there. And then again, bringing that across the body. The hip will shift as you roll to the side. Left shoulder stays on the mat, and then you just decide, do you put a block under your knee? Do you bend the bottom knee? You do what's going to be best for you on your spine. Looking over the left shoulder. Coming back to center. Again, adjusting so you're centered on the mat. Hug both knees into the chest. Finishing with happy baby. Hands come in between the legs, grabbing ankles or feet. See if you can keep your low back pressed into the mat, and if you want, you're rocking side to side. So again here, the arms are kind of pushing the legs open. This is another inner thigh, hip opening kind of stretch. And then we're going to release this down. If you want, give yourself a stretch, arms overhead, legs down below. Take a deep inhale and let it go. Open up the legs, bring the arms down by the side. Palms are face up. Chin just slightly towards chest so that you're not arching your head back. Closing your eyes and releasing into your Savasana. So continue to breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the nose. Actively watching your breath. Imagine drawing in relaxation, but also a peaceful energy. Imagine exhaling stress and tension. And if your mind wanders to other thoughts, let them go. Breathe them away. Give yourself these moments to do nothing but breathe. Bring your attention to your breath again, inhaling and exhaling. We're going to do a pranayama. So it's a relaxing pranayama. So it is your option to stay lying as you are in Savasana if you would like. If you prefer to do it sitting, gently, slowly, no rush, make your way over to your side. And roll yourself up and find yourself in a seated position. So if you're sitting, take any cross-legged sit. Let the arms rest in the lap. Spine is tall, chin towards chest. Closing your eyes. And if you're on the mat, you can stay exactly where you are, palms up. As your hands relax, your fingertips will curve gently in towards the thumb. If you want to connect that into a mudra, touching any one of your fingers, you certainly can. So I'm going to use the same app I did the other night. It's my Calm app. So it's the singing bowl sound. So this breath is an inhale for a 4 count, and then a slightly longer exhale for a 6 count. There's no breath retention in this. It's just inhale and exhale, and it's meant to be a calming breath, and we'll do this for 5 minutes. That's the inhale, exhale. As you release those final breaths, let it go. And then those of you on the laying down, if you would like to join us, find yourself in a nice seated position. You can also just stay down if you want to continue lying down. And then everyone bring your hands to heart center, pressing your palms together. Take an inhale, extend the arms up overhead, press the palms together. Exhale, open the mouth as you bring the hands back down to the heart. Om Shanti Om. I wish you peace. Namaste. Thank you for joining. See you soon.